I've told this story exactly twice in my life. Once to a priest who didn't know what to do with it. Once to my wife, who listened and never brought it up again. This makes 3. January 15th, 1947. It was 10 in the morning. A woman pushing a stroller through a vacant lot on Norton Avenue looks down and sees what she thinks is a broken mannequin. But she's wrong. I got the call at my desk with a cup of coffee going cold in my hand, and by the time I hung up the phone, it was already gone cold for good. To make things clearer, I had been on the force 9 years by then. I'd seen bodies, I'd seen blood, I'd seen everything. You don't do this job and stay clean of that. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepares you for a scene like Norton Avenue. The woman in question was cut clean in half at the waist. There was no blood on the grass and none on her, which told us right away, this didn't happen here. Somebody had killed her somewhere quiet, took their time with her, and then drove her out to that lot like she was something to be disposed of, rather than a person. I crouched next to her thinking, absurdly, that whoever did this had washed her, scrubbed her clean, like they wanted us to see her exactly the way they'd left her. My partner at the time, Ruiz, went pale beside me. He'd been on the force longer than I had, and I'd never ever seen him go quiet like that. He turned to me and said, "Walt, whoever did this enjoyed doing it." I didn't even answer him. I didn't have anything to say back. We had her identity within a day. Prints came back really fast. Some new fax contraption the paper had, wired straight to Washington. How many people even recall that her name was Elizabeth Short? 22, from Massachusetts, chasing something out here that this city rarely gives anybody. A part in a picture, a better version of her own life. Instead, she got a popularity that the papers gave her after she was already gone. Black Dahlia. Like, even in death, this town needed to dress her up as a character, instead of a girl who worked as a waitress and answered to Betty. At some point, it even started to feel more like a circus than it was a case. The reporters got to the scene almost as fast as we did. I always wondered how they seemed to hear so fast. I watched one of them pick up a shoe near the body before we'd even photographed it, turning it over like it was a prop. Ruiz nearly decked him, and I had to pull him back by the collar. "This is evidence," I told the guy, and he just said, "This is a story." I wanted to hold him by his shirt and tell him that those were two different things, just like our jobs. Do yours and let me do mine. Within a week, we had a switchboard full of confessions, and I want to tell you about 2 of them, because they've stuck with me longer than most of the actual evidence has. Men were calling in, saying they did it. Women too, if you can believe that. One lady rang up a station house from a bar, said she stabbed her, hung up before we could get a location. Every single one was a dead end. It was disgusting to see so many attention seekers. Cranks. People who wanted, God knows why, to be the center of something ugly. My captain, Donahue, used to say, "It's amazing what people will confess to just to feel like somebody." I believed him more with every passing week. The first came in 3 days after we found her. A woman called University Station from a payphone outside a bar, half in the bag from the sound of her voice, and told the desk sergeant, "I just stabbed a girl. I killed Elizabeth Short." We sent a car anyway, because you have to, even when you already know. She was still standing outside the bar when they got there, swaying a little bit, and when they asked her where the knife was, she started crying and said she didn't actually know the girl. She'd just seen the papers and wanted somebody to finally pay attention to her for once. We decided to let her sober up in a cell overnight and sent her home in the morning. I've thought about her more than I'd like to admit. Not because I believed her, because I understood, in some small, ugly way, how invisible a person must feel that even confessing to a murder sounds like being seen. The second one was even more unsettling. It felt so authentic that almost everyone in the department fell for it. A man phoned in almost a year later, calm as anything, and gave a detailed account of the killing. In fact, the details he gave matched the papers a little too well, which should have actually told us something right there. I sat across from him myself in an interview room, and he smelled just like old cigarettes and cheap coffee. He talked for 2 hours, contradicted himself twice on where he said he'd left the car. Couldn't even tell me what she'd been wearing when half the country already knew from the papers. By the end of it, I understood he hadn't done it. He just wanted, badly, for someone to believe he was capable of something that big. You have no idea how many times I've turned that over in my head for years. How a man can want credit for the worst thing anyone did to a woman that year, just to feel like he mattered to somebody. By the time Donahue tallied the numbers, we'd logged over 60 confessions in those first months alone. None of them were true, and each one just sent us down a hallway that ended in a locked door. Even I had a theory early on, one I never got to prove properly. There was a heel print near the body that was unmatched. I thought maybe her killer was a woman, possibly a friend, or maybe even a lover. Unfortunately, they were just thoughts in my head, tire tracks that led nowhere. I spent 4 nights canvassing motels near USC because whoever did this had a really, really steady hand, surgical almost, and I couldn't shake the idea that this was somebody who'd been trained to cut, not just somebody who wanted to. I brought that theory to Donahue. He listened, nodded, and told me to keep pulling it. 2 weeks later, the DA's office called that they wanted us to move faster. They just wanted an arrest, to get the papers off their back. 400 more sheriff's deputies got pulled in, 250 state patrolmen. If I'm being honest, it felt like a stampede. Everybody seemed to be chasing the same ghost in different directions. Nobody was even comparing notes. It was a nightmare. I remember coming home during that stretch, and my daughter, 7 years old at the time, asked me why I looked sad all the time. I told her I wasn't sad. She said, "You are, Daddy. You just don't cry about it." I guess kids see more than we give them credit for. My wife didn't even ask questions anymore by then. She'd stopped somewhere around week 3 when I came home at 2 a.m. smelling like a motel hallway and couldn't tell her why. But there was this very night, March, I think, though the months blur together from that year, where I sat in the car outside our house for 20 minutes before going in. I just sat there. I didn't know how to walk through my own front door, still carrying that lot on Norton Avenue with me, and I didn't want to bring it inside. I think that's when I knew this case was eating into my very soul. By spring, the leads had dried up. The letters to the papers, supposedly from the killer, turned out to be unprovable. Cut and paste clippings, no prints, wiped clean with gasoline like everything else connected to this case. Somebody out there knew exactly how to leave nothing behind. If I'm being honest, I'm that cop who doesn't give up, so I chased it another 2 years past the point where anyone expected me to. I followed a name to Florida once, a man who wrote to us claiming a friend of his had done it. I sat across from him in an interview room and watched him talk himself in circles, contradicting his own story until neither of us could tell what was true anymore. That lead went nowhere too, same as all the others. I eventually retired in the 60s, never solved it. Neither did anyone after me. They tell the press that the case is still open, but we all know it's not. Heck, the monster who did this may be dead himself. Sometimes I think about that heel print. I think about every single thing and wonder if we would ever figure out where we missed it. I think about the woman outside the bar, too, and the man in that interview room a year later. 2 people who wanted so badly to matter that they'd claim the worst thing either of them had ever heard of. Mostly, though, I think about her name, not the one the papers gave her, the one her mother used on the phone that first night when we called to tell her. It's Betty. Just Betty. Like, subscribe, and tell us what story you want us to do next. I'll see you soon.